My name is NonStopAntonio, and it's time to talk about the second to last episode of The Flash Season 9, Episode 12. And goddamn, they picked it up. Last episode, I wasn't really feeling it, but this episode, beautiful. I loved it, and I thought everyone did an absolutely amazing job. Especially the characters I didn't think that were gonna get good moments, got good moments. There's some pretty cool Easter eggs and references in this, so let's jump into my breakdown for Episode 12 of The Flash Season 9. Welcome to NonStopAntonio, where I talk about everything nerdy. I love Marvel, DC, and anime, and if you do too, I hope you enjoy this video. The episode was done amazingly. I am happy that the final episodes of The Flash are going to end with a bang, rather than having kind of a shitty ending. I think we all know this by now, that The Flash has definitely had its ups and downs ever since Season 4. So it's really nice to see that there's just something good coming out of the final season. Last episode was a mix of good and bad, but this one definitely topped it, because there were 3 performances that really stood out this episode. Rick Cosnett was a highlight of this episode, having a character who used to be this really caring person, who is this hero, go from that to have his psyche being broken over and over and over during the episode until he finally snaps. Mostly because the negative speed force is corrupting him, but also him realizing that his sacrifice was absolutely for nothing, because Earboard Thawne just kept coming back and back and back and tormenting Team Flash. Which is really sad, because if you think about it, Eddie sacrificed himself for literally nothing to come from it, other than from Ronnie dying. I mean, to be fair, he did save Barry. Jessica Parker Kennedy did a great job playing Nora. It's cool to see her play this more sinister version of her character, because she gets corrupted by the negative speed force like Joe did in the past, and Mark did in the present. And the one performance I was not expecting was Brandon McKnight, who replays Chester in the show. I was not expecting him to have such a good role in this, because he talks to Cecile about how Cecile is a hero and a mother, you know, kind of inspiring her to continue to try to be a hero, even though she's kind of doubting herself after realizing that her future self is not seeing her family as much as she wanted to. She feels like she chose being a hero over being a mother. And I like how they're playing that, and how they gave Chester a really good moment with her, because I've not been really feeling any of Chester's moments from this season, but this was done really well. Also, the CGI was not half bad this episode. Watching Nora versus Barry was really fun, with the blue lightning versus Barry's yellow and orange lightning. Awesome to watch. The speedster fights this season have been great. Just watching them go off on each other using different moves. Barry used his shield again, and Nora used a whip, which I think looked really cool with the CG. Of course, the Flash doesn't have like amazing CG all the time, but I think this looks good for what it could be. Overall, I really liked how this episode played out, and I'm really looking forward to the final, because we are going to be seeing some of our favorite speedsters return, and it's gonna be epic. I'm really hoping it's not a letdown and the show ends with just one big bang. Kind of a bittersweet ending, because now the show's over. And of course, they had to step up their game for the last few episodes of the season, rather than giving us a huge disappointment. But let's jump into the episode and talk about specific things and look into those Easter eggs and references that were within it. We'll start off with the future Team Flash stuff, because some of that stuff was pretty freaking cool that came out of it. Mostly to see that Nora is working with Cecile and Allegra, and during this scene, we get a Watchtower reference. The Justice League Watchtower that's in space, because Barry's alive and he's currently up there, which is so freaking awesome that they're tying back to Justice League once again, because they set that up on Crisis on Infinite Earth, and then it went nowhere because of the pandemic. And I was really disappointed with Cecile at first too, because she looks like she just had a mask on, but by the end of the episode, we see that she has a full-blown suit, and this is a comic book suit. They mixed her character with another one from the comics that debuted back in 2013 that I've literally never heard of, and the comic book hero's name is Virtue. So I think they based Cecile's power around this character, because then they gave her the comic book suit, which was exactly the same as this person's suit. And in the comics, the character with these powers and the suit is named Holly Ann Field. She has empathy powers just like Cecile, but Cecile definitely has more powers than that as the show has progressed. So it looks like this is where they kind of took her base powers from and then expanded it and then gave her that hero name. Now let's jump into the Eddie stuff, because that was pretty interesting to say the least. Because when he starts freaking out, a singularity opens up and he kills Corber. Did not see that coming, but it also kind of ties more about the fact that he's connected to the negative speed force, because the negative speed force continuously through the episode is trying to manipulate him and turn him to the dark side. And I think that's why I kept opening up the singularities when they were in the graveyard and then when they were in Star Labs. It was all to get Eddie to turn to the dark side, show him what he could have, because they show him his daughter, which was Nora. So if he had a daughter with Iris, it would still be Nora, but with blonde hair. I'm pretty sure that was just Speed Force messing with him and trying to get him, just trying to corrupt him even more. Because the whole point of this episode was to show Eddie what he could have had and what Barry took away from him, pointing out that his sacrifice did not mean anything because Thawne kept coming back, and they showed him that, just to kind of break him a little more, that his sacrifice was useless. I thought it was really interesting to see him and Nora interact too, because of the fact that Nora is the future child of the woman he loved, and the fact that Barry is the father, and Barry just swooped in and took his fiance after he died, which he even says in the episode, and even making it the reason that Eddie is the best suited Avatar is because Eddie was willing to sacrifice himself to kill his own family, which makes him perfect because Barry would never do that, but Eddie would. And probably the best part of the episode with this too is how Barry and Eddie interact, because of the fact that Barry grabs him and runs and then thanks him for everything, because Barry wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Eddie. And Eddie's sacrifice still saved Barry's life, even though it pretty much did nothing in the long run of things because Thawne kept coming back. And it also let us know why Eddie's back, because he woke up in the house that Barry ran to, which was Joe's house. It shows that the reality has been manipulated for Eddie because it's filled with negative tachyons, which I really like how they play that the negative speed force resurrected Eddie. That's the reason he's back, because they wanted him to be their avatar. And I love how he gets in an argument with Barry, because Crystal says to Eddie that he can have a life, he could have kids, he could have the family he always wanted, but if he doesn't take it, what does that leave him? He's just gonna die again? Like, there's no point. And Barry's like, no, it's gonna corrupt you, it's gonna make you evil. But he's like, what if I don't want to be the avatar? What if I just want to be a hero? Really showing that Eddie, he doesn't understand what's going on. He just sees if he doesn't accept this crystal, he's just gonna die again, and all this was for nothing. He wants to live. He's got a second chance at life, and he wants to take it. But he also realizes that Barry pretty much took what could have been his. And I think that goes a long way until he goes to meet Iris, and Iris pretty much makes him break for the final moment because she tells him that it was never between them. She should have been choosing Barry the entire time. It was always supposed to be Barry. Which, you got this man going crazy right in front of you, and you don't think saying something like that is not gonna make him snap? Because goddamn, Eddie was going crazy at that point. And you really feel bad for Eddie too, because the dude died sacrificing himself for Barry, then finding out that Barry took his fiance and married her and had the family that he wanted. It's kind of crazy. It would definitely make someone snap and turn bad. When you have this evil force of nature calling to you, manipulating you, and trying to get you to turn to the dark side, because it can give you what you want. And I really like how they play that this episode. Now, before we get into the Cobalt, Nora, and Barry fight, let's talk about the past versions of our characters real quick. There is a couple things and cool references during that as well, because while they're trying to figure out where Barry is, they reference both Stein and Timeless Wells, which I feel like is teasing Timeless Wells coming back. Because Stein is dead, I don't think they're going to make him return, but I do definitely see a Harrison Wells other than Reverse Flash returning. On their thing too, they also had the Call the Wave Rider, which they have crossed out because the legends are in prison. The Time Spear. They had Dion for the Still Fourth, but he's MIA, possibly fighting the other forces. They also reference Supergirl is still off-world. It also says Breacher's Blade, able to cut through space-time. During all this, they plan to send Cecile's consciousness into the future, which first of all is kind of weird. I don't understand that still. But during this scene, we do get a reference to the Chronok Wars, which is the tease for the Forever War that they were talking about wanting to do for season 10, which would have taken place in 2049 with Barry and Jay Garrick and the others fighting the Chronarch off-world, which would have been a very interesting story. It would have taken place in season 10. They also referenced the Freedom Fighters during this, and the Freedom Fighters are the resistance team on Earth X that the Ray was part of, which we did see during Crisis on Infinite Earth, which we never actually got to see them again after all that. So it would have been cool to see them again if that was like a cool tease for season 10 if that was to happen. But I feel like they wouldn't be on Earth X anymore. They would definitely be on Earth Prime after the multiverse got reset. At least the characters that didn't have doppelgangers from the other Earths that we already knew. But it is a cool little Easter egg and reference. Now let's jump into the Barry versus Cobalt Nora fight, because this was cool. I really like the Speedsters fight this season. Even the one with Red Death looked good. This one looked really good. I really like the blue lightning. Like, it looked really nice. And the way they were fighting, Barry uses shield again. She uses like a whip multiple times. And I like how Barry's fighting because he's not willing to hurt his daughter. So he's trying to be careful while he's doing this, which ultimately almost gets him killed. He's being too cautious at this point, and the negative speed force is trying to kill him. And this is where we finally got Cecile's new suit, because Cecile projects herself back into the future, takes over herself, we get her hero name, and she saves Barry by going to Nora and Doctor Stranging her ass out of her body. She used an astral projection type thing, or whatever they called it in Marvel, because I am just blanking on the name right now. Pop her out, literally like Doctor Strange did to Spider-Man during No Way Home, and send out the negative speed force. Didn't see that coming. It was kind of weird, but I thought it was a really cool reference to literally Doctor Strange. And then, like always, the blue crystal disappears because every time they cast it out, it's gone again. But it didn't go far this time. It just went back to Mercury Labs for Eddie to find. The cool part too is that the crystal was from Mercury Labs, from exactly where it is right now, because at the end of season 8 we saw it. And now at the very end of this episode, it shows Eddie going to grab it. So I really like how that kind of goes back to that. It's going back to where it started, and Eddie's accepting it because he sees what he could have had. He could have had this life with Iris, and he wants that. But he also sees Barry's biggest enemies. We get Savitar, Zoom, Godspeed, and Reverse Flash, who are all coming back next episode. And the thing that's interesting about this too is that time is starting to crumble around them. The Speed Force Nora is no more. Well, at least it seems like she's no more. and the only Speed Force entry left is within Barry and his family. So that makes me wonder if Bart's also going to come back as well, because he is in this universe. He is alive. We saw a picture of him. So it's going to be pretty cool to see what other speedsters we have from the Flash family that are going to be helping take on the negative evil speedsters. And then Barry gets taken again, which I'm feeling like he gets taken back to the present this time, and they're going to be fighting him in the present. I think that's what's going to happen. Cobalt Blue is going to take everyone to the present and fight Barry. And I think the way they're going to bring Savitar, Zoom, and everyone back is that he's going to go through time and pull them from time, just like how the Crystal Negative Speed Force has been dropping Barry at different points in time. Speaking of those characters, let's talk about the episode 13 trailer, because we got those characters in it. We get to see Zoom. We get to see a glimpse of him turning into the Black Flash like at the end of season 2. However, I don't know if this is supposed to be a tease for the Black Flash actually showing up in the final, or if it's just showing how Zoom died. We could get glimpses of how each of these characters died because of the Flash, and that would be pretty interesting. We have Reverse Flash showing up saying, I wouldn't miss this. Savitar coming back, looking like he's about to stab Nora like he did Iris in season 3. Jay is coming back. I was so happy to see Jay Garrick in this trailer, because I was hoping this character would return this season, and he is. We got Henry Allen, now we're getting Jay Garrick, which makes me hopeful to see some of our other favorite speedsters from the hero side. Because if Jay Garrick's coming back, there's a good chance we might see a couple more. I'm hoping Wally comes back for the final still. Also looks like Chester might die. He might not actually die. That might be a whole misdirect, but it looks like Chester might be biting the dust this episode. It looks like the final is going to end off in a really good note, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. What did you think of this episode? What are you most excited for in the final? And how do you feel about this 4-part final so far? Were there any cool Easter eggs you noticed that I missed? Because I feel like I got them all, but I'm sure I missed maybe one or two. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to see my other DC breakdown, Titans recently finished, so you can check that out. All the episodes are up right now. I'm covering Superman and Lois until that finishes, and hopefully Doom Patrol comes back soon so we can watch that as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.